What if everything you believe about women is a lie men made up to protect their fragile egos? No, seriously. What if the whole sweet, soft, morally superior thing was just a fancy costume stitched together by fear, not truth? Now, before you start clutching your pearls or rage typing in the comments, this isn't some women are evil speech. It's actually the opposite. This is about one of the boldest minds in history, Friedrich Nietzsche, calling out the BS we're all too scared to admit. And spoiler alert, he didn't hate women. He just refused to lie about them. See, Nietzsche didn't do safe. He wasn't a guy to hand you feel-good fairy tales. He held up a mirror, one that showed all the cracks we pretend aren't there. And when he looked at women, he didn't see angels or devils. He saw power, strategy, survival. He thought men didn't fall in love with women. They fell in love with their own ideas of women. A fantasy, a projection, like falling in love with a dream, and then getting pissed when it wakes up and talks back. Sound familiar? Nietzsche wasn't trying to bash love. He just wanted us to stop lying to ourselves. Because as long as we're stuck in this game of illusions, nobody wins. We get relationships built on expectations, not reality, control instead of connection. And honestly, that shit keeps people lonely, even when they're not alone. So if you've ever looked around and thought, why does dating feel like one long job interview where everyone's faking confidence and dodging trauma? Congrats, you're already thinking like Nietzsche. And trust me, it only gets weirder from here. But before we dive deeper into the fascinating journey, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Men don't really love women. They love the idea of women. That's what Nietzsche believed. And honestly, he wasn't exactly wrong. See, society has this neat little box it likes to shove women into. Sweet, pure, emotionally perfect little angels sent to keep men from falling apart. It's like every Disney princess rolled into one, with a sprinkle of she'll fix me with her love nonsense. But Nietzsche, he saw through the act. He called it what it was, male self-deception. A fantasy men made up because they were too damn scared to deal with the real thing. And let's be real here. It's easier to worship a perfect woman who exists only in your head than it is to connect with a real human being who cries during commercials, forgets to text back, and doesn't magically heal your childhood trauma with eye contact. Nietzsche called this a kind of cowardice. Men weren't seeing women for who they are. They were editing them like Instagram filters, cropping out the anger, the independence, the messy parts. Because deep down, they didn't want truth. They wanted comfort. But that comfort comes with a cost. Relationships built on fantasy collapse the second reality shows up. And when it does, a lot of guys feel betrayed, not because a woman changed, but because their illusion couldn't keep up. Sound harsh? Maybe. But it's also the wake-up call we need. Because if you keep chasing the perfect image, you'll miss the real connection. The kind where you actually grow. The kind where both people are allowed to be complicated, flawed, and still worthy of love. But Nietzsche didn't stop at calling men out. Oh no, he went further. He started looking at the moves women made to survive in a world that never gave them real power. Power doesn't always yell. Sometimes it smiles. That's what Nietzsche saw in women. Not weakness, but a different kind of strength. One that didn't show up with swords or speeches, but still managed to run the room. See, for most of history, women didn't get the throne, the army, or the fancy title. Society locked the front door and tossed them a be quiet and look pretty sign. But instead of giving up, they found a side entrance. They mastered the art of subtle domination, seduction, charm, emotional radar that could read a man's ego before he even opened his mouth. While dudes were out yelling orders and swinging swords, women were winning loyalty without lifting finger. Or as Nietzsche might say, guiding without commanding, dominating without looking like it. And no, this isn't about femme fatale or manipulative villains from bad rom-coms. This is about survival. Women had to learn how to influence without authority. They used softness as strategy, vulnerability as armor. That look, that pause, that tone of voice that makes a grown man question all his decisions. Yeah, that's not an accident. Nietzsche didn't mock this. He respected it. Because it takes serious skill to move the world when the world refuses to admit you even in the game. And here's the twist. This isn't some ancient history thing. It still shows up today. Ever wonder why the quietest person in the room sometimes has the most control? That's not luck. That's emotional leverage. Baby. And this power, it wasn't about manipulation. It was about survival in a rigged system. You ever hear someone say, she only cares about how she looks? Yeah, Nietzsche would have laughed and said, exactly. That's the whole point. To him, what most people call vanity, he called psychological warfare. In a world where women were denied real power, they turned appearance into a weapon. And not just for selfies or compliments, for survival. See, Nietzsche realized something wild. In a society obsessed with surface, if you control how you're seen, you control how you're treated. That's not vanity. That's strategy. Women didn't just want to look pretty for the hell of it. They learned to master perception, to walk into a room and shift a mood with a smile, a glance, a vibe. Softness became strength. Grace became dominance in disguise. Lipstick wasn't just color, it was armor. And let's not pretend we've outgrown this. Look at Instagram. Look at dating apps. Look at how the world still reacts to beauty like it's a magical superpower. Because it is. When used right, it bends the rules. Nietzsche saw all this and thought, damn, this is some next-level tactical genius. Not because women were fake, but because they knew the mask mattered. In a system that refused to hand them the microphone, they mastered the lighting instead. And honestly, that's not deception. That's adaptation. That's how you thrive when the game was never made for you. But Nietzsche's analysis went even deeper, right into the morality women were praised for. Patience, humility, sacrifice. Sounds like a saint, right? Nietzsche looked at that list and went, nah, that's not purity. That's survival with eyeliner. He believed women didn't just happen to be virtuous. They performed virtue like pros, not because they were fake, but because they had to. In a world built by men, for men, women had two choices, play the part or get played. So they played it, and played it well. All that I'm just here to support, I don't need anything, or I'm fine, really stuff? Nietzsche saw through it. He said women turn vulnerability into a shield. A kind of emotional judo move. Lean into the weakness they expected from you. And boom, now they don't see you coming. And let's not get it twisted. This wasn't lying. This was strategy. Feminine goodness was less about moral truth and more about creating safe space in a world that never really had any for them. Think about it today. You ever notice how women are praised more when they stay quiet, stay soft, stay small? The same old rules are still running in the background, just with better lighting and maybe a TikTok filter. Nietzsche didn't hate that system. He hated that we didn't question it. Because when you start turning survival into sainthood, it gets blurry. We start confusing what works with what's real. And the more women refine these tools, the more men confuse illusion with essence. You want to know what really scares the hell out of some men? A woman who doesn't need them. Not their protection. Not their money, not their permission to exist. Just a woman who's fully in charge of herself and isn't asking anyone to clap for it. Nietzsche saw that fear coming a mile away. He said the truly independent woman would shake the whole damn system. Not because she's loud, not because she's mean, because she's free. And nothing threatens comfort like freedom you can't control. See, society was built with a sneaky little lie baked in. Men lead, women support. But the second a woman stands on her own, no smile to soften the truth, no giggle to make it cute, some dudes go into emotional Defcon 1. Suddenly it's, she's too much, or she thinks she's better. Nah, bro, she just stopped playing the damsel. Nietzsche didn't call this resentment toxic masculinity because that tame didn't exist yet. But make no mistake, he saw it for what it was, fear wrapped in ego. And he didn't blame women. He blamed a world that taught men their value comes from being needed. And when that need disappears, panic, jealousy, control issues, the whole damn meltdown. But here's the twist. It's not just about dating or gender. It's about growth. About facing your own insecurities when someone else doesn't need your approval to be whole. Because when a woman stops pretending, a man has two options, grow up or lash out. So what happens when we drop the masks? When both sides stop pretending? What if love wasn't about fixing someone, or being their hero, or playing games just to feel safe? Nietzsche believes something wild. When both people stop pretending, really stop, a different kind of connection is possible. No roles, no illusions, just truth. Raw, uncomfortable, beautiful truth. Most relationships, they are built on fantasy, on someone being the strong one, or the sweet one, or the one who saves the other from their damage. But that stuff's a performance, and eventually it cracks. But what if both people showed up fully? No masks, no power plays. No, I'll act weak so you'll feel strong, or I'll act perfect so you won't leave. Nietzsche said it's rare, but when it happens, it hits different. That kind of relationship isn't about needing each other. It's about choosing each other. Not because you complete each other like some cheesy Hallmark card, but because you see the chaos, the flaws, the strength, and stay anyway. And yeah, that takes guts. You've got to drop the fantasy and face what's real. Most people aren't ready for that. They'd rather keep dancing around the truth than sit with it. But if you can do it, if you can walk through the awkward, the honest, the real, you don't just become a better partner. You become a better human. And if you've made it this far, maybe you're already one of them. I used to believe in the fairy tale too. You know, the one where love magically fixes everything. The right person completes you, and if it's meant to be, it'll just work. Then Nietzsche came in like a wrecking ball and absolutely destroyed that fantasy. And honestly, thank God he did. Because behind all those cute love stories and Instagram quotes is something way more real and way more powerful. A version of love that isn't built on lies, fear, or pretending to be someone you're not. A version where you don't lose yourself just to be loved. If you ever felt like you were playing a part in your own relationship, if you've ever looked around and thought, why the hell does everyone seem so fake? This channel is your space. We're not here to sugarcoat. We're here to wake up. This is for the people who want more. More honesty, more depth, more conversations that actually make your brain do a backflip and your heart say, oh shit, that's me. So if you're tired of surface level crap and ready to start seeing relationships, power, and identity through a sharper lens, hit that like button, leave a comment, tell me where this hit you, and subscribe so you don't miss the next truth bomb we drop. You're not just supporting a channel, you're joining a tribe of minds that want to grow, unlearn, and maybe even become something real. See you in the next one. Stay sharp, stay awake,